Andrew? Okay. So we will call the North Kingstown School Committee November 4th meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is to convene open session and recess into executive session pursuant to RIGL 42464 for discussion of any discussion of job performance, character, or physical or mental health of a person or persons, provided that such person or persons affected has been notified in advance in writing and advised that it may be discussed in open meeting pursuant to RIGL 42465A1, superintendent review, engage conflict counsel for employee hearing, teacher FTE adjustment, employee A resignation, employee B resignation. Item number 2, sessions pertaining to potential litigation / legal advice and collective bargaining pursuant to RIGL 42465A2, engage conflict counsel for Warwick Schools v. Barrington Ride litigation, Rouse Architects potential litigation, and NEA-NK arbitration. Item 3, any executive session for local school committee exclusively for the purposes of reviewing other matters that relate to privacy of students and their records, provided, however, that any affected students have been notified in advance in writing and advised that he or she may require the discussion to be held in open meeting pursuant to RIGL 42465A8, parent appeal for transportation. Can I get a motion to go into executive, please?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to reconvene into open session. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Erin Earl.
Here.
Robert Cage.
Here.
Jennifer Lima. Here. Megan Riley.
Here.
Sherry Kennedy.
Here.
Joshua Furtado. Sadie McCann.
Okay, and the calendar, please.
November 5th, 2025, Building Advisory Committee meeting 6 p.m. Central Admin Conference Room. November 12th, 2025, Health and Wellness Advisory Committee 4:30 p.m. Central Admin Conference Room. November 13th, 2025, CLAC 6:45 p.m. Central Admin Conference Room. Regular business meeting November 18th, 7 p.m. Central Admin Conference Room. School Committee office hours November 19th, 2025, 7 p.m. Central Admin Conference Room.
Great, thank you. And the next item on the agenda is the NKSD Survey Works results, and so I'll turn over to Dr. Guzzo. To turn over to Mr. Rezzavi.
Ms. Knight is going to report on that for us.
Okay, good evening. So I'd like to just preface presentation by again thanking everybody, students, staff, and families for giving us their feedback on the survey work results in the spring of 2025. It's always extremely helpful to hear from our various stakeholders in our community, and we are looking forward to obviously continuing that practice. So with that, I'll begin with the presentation. So the first group is our students in grades 3 through 5. You can see the number of responses there. I just tried to do last year versus this year to reflect that. Moving on, you can see here that these are our responses from our 3rd to 5th grade students. As you'll see in all the slides, column 3 compares North Kingstown to the Rhode Island average and how we compare to the state average, and then column 4 shows the percent change from the previous year. Notice we did go down a little bit in a couple of categories here. I do want to come back to that, though, because there is a bit of an explanation for that based on the way the questions were asked this year versus last year. So I'm going to touch upon that when we finish up that section. But you can see here, as far as the percentage are concerned, we are doing quite well relative to the state in these areas, scoring in the 70% favorability rating in each of these areas for our grades 3 to 5 students. Moving on. Similarly, in these areas here, performing quite well in comparison to the state. We see a little bit of a tick up in some of them, a tick down in a few others. Again, I want to kind of couch a little bit of the downward trends compared to the way the survey was given this year in terms of the questions being asked. Obviously, there are a few areas here that we do want to pay attention to, specifically the school engagement category being below 50% at 47. That's something to look at. Moving on. This is an explanation that's new this year, and this has to do with topics that were in the survey that had updates to the wording of questions and or answer choices. So there were some changes this year that the survey was put out on, and as a result, some of the feedback we got was giving us what they're calling an adjusted score compared to the actual score that was reported. The adjusted score takes into account the difference in the phrasing of some of the questions and responses that the students saw this year versus the previous year. And so, for example, as you can see, the school rigorous expectations category, which indicated that we had gone down 5 points to 79% in this year, the adjusted score would be at an 82%, which still is a tick down 2 points from the previous year, but it is a bit of a change there. Same thing with the piece on school teacher-student relationships, which the adjusted score is at 79% compared to the 72% that was reported, which is actually a point gain versus a 6-point loss. And you can see the other ones there that reflect those wording changes. So again, that is something that we wanted to just make a note of. A couple of things to point out with these questions. On school climate, one of the questions we are going to take a look at, dig a little deeper on, was a question students were asked about how well do students follow the rules at your school, only a 37% favorability rating on that answer, so we want to look at that a little bit. Also for the school engagement questions, one of the questions we looked at was how excited are you about going to your classes? 51% scored it favorable, maybe a little look there. And when you're not in school, how often do you talk about ideas from your classes? Only a 31% favorability rating on that one. So that's one we're going to look at as well in terms of our students in grades 3 through 5. We'll review that data at the school level with our building leaders. Moving on to our secondary students in grades 6 through 12. You can see the responses there comparatively from this year to last year. So these results here, you can see, again, similarly setting up relative to the state of Rhode Island averages and then also relative to previous year's score. Little concerning there on the 4-point drop on school rigorous expectations. Again, there is that adjusted piece that goes into play here with the 6 through 12 results, similar to the 3 through 5 results. So a nice 5-point jump in life skills, which is good to see. Everything else kind of pretty steady from previous years. Again, going to want to look at some of those scores that fall below the 50% mark there. Valuing of school and school teacher-student relationships are going to be worth looking into a little closer with our student population at the secondary level. Moving on to the next slide. As you can see here, we had a nice jump in state initiatives up to 36%. Not exactly a great number, but the increase is good to see. Same thing with school belonging, an 8-point jump. Again, 38% is a number we would definitely like to be higher at, but having a jump improvement, progress is a good sign in that area. Little concern about the school climate piece, down 4 points comparatively to past years. Moving on. This again is that same figure that I showed you earlier, which is that adjusted score relative to the new wording of the questions that came in this year for our student survey. So you can see here the school rigorous expectations, again, not much of a change there based on the adjusted score, only a 1-point gain to the adjusted versus the actual. So again, we're seeing close here. The one thing I think that is pretty significant difference is the school climate piece. Came in at a 38%, which put us 4 points down from last year. The adjusted score puts us at a 43%. So we had a 5-point swing based on that. Couple of things to note here, again, things that we're going to take a closer look at, having to do with school rigorous expectations. We saw a little bit of a dip on these questions. How often do your teachers ask you to explain your answers? And then also, how high are your teachers' expectations of you? So a little dip in those questions, so that's something we're going to take a look at our secondary level. Also, we definitely want to look at the school belonging question. How much respect do students in your school show each other? Only 23% favorability rating for that, which is a concern. We're going to look at that and talk about that school belonging piece and some of the relationships that are very important. And then for school climate, we saw questions, how often do your teachers seem excited to be teaching your classes? 47%, not a bad response, but still we want to look at that a little bit. School engagement, how excited are you to be going to your classes? Again, that number was around 20%, need to be keeping an eye on that as well. But again, a lot of positives to point to here. Overall, good scores relative to the state. We saw some nice jumps in some of the numbers, and we seem to be making pretty good progress with our 6 to 12 students. But we can always obviously identify areas for improvement. Our teacher survey here, you can see the 2025 versus 2024 results or responses. So these responses here, these do not take into account any adjusted score. These were the same question phrasings as we've had in past years. Again, very nice to see the numbers relative to the state. We see the significant increase in comparison to the state with all categories except for the educating all students category, which I will be talking about a little bit later. That is a concern, significant drop there. But we saw a significant boost in a couple of categories, specifically building leadership, school climate, and also life skills. So nice gains in those areas there. Teaching efficacy and absenteeism are down a couple points, but holding pretty steady at their results. Moving on, looking at high quality instructional materials, so a nice jump there of 11 points, up to 55%. Nice jump in the area of professional learning, up 8 points comparatively. Resources up 6 points, and then cultural awareness, cultural awareness and action, student focus, up 7 points from previous years. So that was nice to see. Moving on, these last two categories for teachers, 9-point jump in frequency of professional learning activities, and an 8-point jump in cultural awareness and action adult focus. I have to dig into the educating all students section a little bit more. I was a little bit confused by digging into that and seeing the results as they were. It said an 11-point dip, which is the first thing that stood out to me, like, wow, that's a big dip. Digging into some of the questions, I got to kind of get some maybe assistance from Riot on this, because digging into some of the questions in there, it did not indicate that that dip was really, should have been as big as it was. We did have a dip in a couple of questions. There were 6 questions that were in that category, and based on digging into the data, it only showed one was decreasing. It was only by 3 points. So I'm going to have to dig into that a little bit more. It was a little bit confusing there. But be that as it may, it's still something to definitely take a look at, and it's something that we want to try to unpack a little bit. A couple of questions that we think maybe are in need of attention in the district-wide. When a sensitive issue of diversity arises in class, how easily can you think of strategies to address the situation? About half our teachers respond favorably to that, something we could look at a little bit. And so that's under the cultural awareness and action student focus category. So moving on. Our support professionals. So for this, we're talking about our school counselors, school social workers, psychologists, and student assistance counselors, etc. You can see the response comparisons there in this category. Again, looking at some of our response here, a little bit of a mixed bag. Nice to see the 9-point increase in building leadership, which puts us 15 points ahead of the state average at 80%. It's a really nice number to see, really impressive testament to the leadership of our building leaders. And also a nice result in school climate, jumping up 4 points at 77% is a good, always good to see. Very good result there. We saw a little bit of a dip in educating all students at 72%, a little below the state average. So that's another one that's worth looking into, worth digging at a little bit more. The rest of them, a little jump up in state initiatives, a little jump down in absenteeism, and a jump up in life skills. Moving on, again, there's some areas here that we definitely are going to want to take a closer look at, specifically the area of cultural awareness and action student focus, where we went down 7 points, and relative to the state, we're -5 on that one. So that's definitely worth looking into a little bit more. Just surveying some of the questions on that, some of the questions that they were asked that pertain to that category. One is, how often are students given opportunities to learn about people from different races, ethnicities, and cultures? That was a 56% favorability response on that, so that's something that, again, is worth looking into. Also, under that category, at your school, how often are students given the opportunity to think deeply about race-related topics? Again, we went down a little bit in that category as well, so that's worth looking into. And then finally, how comfortable are you discussing race-related topics with your students? Again, around 50% on that one, but still a little bit down from the year before. So a few to think about there. And so these are some of our highlights here on the support professionals. Going to the next one is families. We were very encouraged to see the increase in the number of family responses last year, or this year compared to last year, at 952 compared to 783 the year before. So I want to thank our families for, again, giving us their feedback. Had some really nice responses here, some positive responses to the families. 80% at school climate, which is a nice number to be at. Seeing a nice jump there. Special education services up 4 points, school safety up 2 points, family school communication up 5 points, and state initiatives up 19 points. So always good to see some real positive feedback there from our families. Moving along, we saw a 4-point jump in absenteeism, a little bit of a dip in cultural awareness and action, down 2 points, and school improvement up 6 points. And family engagement is one to look at only 27%. That's an area that we clearly can look at more closely. And I'm happy to have you answer any questions if you have them.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Mezzanotte. Questions from the committee?
I just have a couple. Thank you for adding that information that showed the adjusted scores that like leveled some out.
I want to congratulate you because I know that one of the district goals from 2023 was to see an increase in belonging and engagement, and that showed like that over the past 3 years that has gone up in both grade levels. So that's great work on that, and same thing with the school climate. So that's good to see that progression. Also, there's a nice increase in building leadership shown from both the teachers and the support professionals, so that's awesome. You touched on the areas of concerns that I noted also, which was the educating all students and the cultural awareness. So I would be interested to hear the feedback that you get after digging in a little bit deeper. And the other thing that I noted was the feedback from the families all had increased except for the cultural awareness. So I think there definitely is like a theme there, but overall I think the trend is really positive, and that's great, and the work that you're putting into that definitely shows.
Thank you.
Questions from the committee? One thing, Rob, I was just curious about, is it possible to get when we know the number, like what it's out of? So like, it's good that you were showing us like 24, this many people took it, 25, this many people took it, but I'd be curious about the response rate to know if it's statistically significant. So if you could give those numbers when we know. I know the family one is a little difficult to quantify, but if for the others, I imagine we could. So just curious about that. But again, to Jen's point, like it's encouraging. I think with most of the categories it did go up, which is great, but I'm still curious where it is in the larger number.
Sure.
And then another question was like, when you're saying like areas to take a look at, like what does that look like in actuality? Like how would you tackle, like there's a lot that you said, this is an area to look at, this is an area to look at. Do you have thoughts on kind of your plan to approach that? Because obviously they gave us this feedback, but I feel like it might be challenging to really like figure out the root causes for some of those.
Sure. At the district level, we tend to try to look at like more broad trends. So some of the categories that across the district level we're seeing as being, maybe either consistent growth or maybe a little bit consistent going the other way. We'll try to look at that more broad based and say, all right, like what are some like the questions that they're asking? What could be maybe some of the factors that maybe we do have control over, maybe we don't have as much control over, the factors that contribute to a lower favorability response to that. Because I think there's some questions that do have a lot of things that come into play sometimes when it comes to favorability that really are outside of a school-based control. But we try to look at what we have under our control to say, what's maybe a low-hanging fruit we can kind of grab here, whether it's a topic that we do in professional development or whether it's something we do at buildings with faculty meetings or things like that. But just to facilitate conversations. And then at the building levels, the leadership teams, the school improvement teams will look at the building specific feedback and data to kind of identify similar maybe areas of focus at the building level.
Another thing is talking with those that took the survey works, right? So talking to the students, talking to the staff, just to kind of like dig into like maybe like why do they answer the way they answered? So then we can figure out like what type of resources they need, or I mean I think especially like what I wrote down similar to what we just talked about, like the areas that are going to grow is educating all students in the cultural awareness and the actions. Like why? Why did they answer the way they answered, and what more do they need?
But you don't know who took it.
No, we don't. But what we do know is students take it during the day, so you probably have a good percentage there, and staff when we put it out. That they take it, we give them time to take it. Some of it's during a faculty meeting, so we can, look at how we can like create some focus groups and faculty meetings to get info from the teachers as well. So.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to citizens' comments. Do we have anyone signed up for citizens' comments today?
No.
Okay, so no citizens' comments today, so we'll move right on to the superintendent report. Dr. Dubois?
Okay, thank you. A few things to report out on. One, I just want to note for Hamilton Elementary School, they, as a recent Feinstein school, that they already had someone there receive a golden ticket, so names are pulled. Part of being a golden ticket winner is that the school receives a $2,000 grant to put towards an action or initiative at the school level, and then the student who his name is pulled, the family receives a financial amount as well. And so at that level, the family that received it, they're donating their money to a Glenroy Hope Foundation, which is really nice to see like how that money is being put towards something. And then at the school level, we'll talk with them that like what they're doing as an initiative within their building as well. Another great thing to report out on, and I shared this with all of you in the community, is that the U.S. News and World Report published their 2026 best elementary schools and middle schools and high schools. And we have a variety of our schools that are among the top 10 and 25 schools across the state. At the elementary level, Fishing Cove is ranked number 10 in the state. Hamilton is ranked number 12. Stony Lane is ranked 13. And Forest Park is ranked 16. And I want to point out Quinnesset because they made some great improvement over the past year. So they went from ranking of 108 to 92.
Wow.
So I think that's really good to point out of the improvement that they're making. Wickford Middle School is the 3rd middle school in the state, and Davison Middle School is the 8th middle school in the state. And our high school is ranked number 6 in the state. So we're doing a lot of great things in our district, and the way that they calculate those numbers is based on our academic achievement, as well as other data from RIDE as well. So I just want to congratulate all of our staff, students, families, administrators for the great work that they're doing in our schools. Next, I want to provide an update on the machinist program. So this summer we hired Brian Degry, who is the machinist teacher. So he has joined us. He was working at CCRI as one of the instructors there, so a lot of the students knew him. So he was already working with our students and familiar with the program. He's now on our staff. We are making really good progress with how the renovations of the D building, as well as the equipment that's coming in. So the equipment for the manual manufacturing room, that's coming as 3 milling machines and 2 lathes have arrived and are in place in the manual room. The 2 CNC milling machines have arrived at the manufacturer, which is out of the country right now, but they're being inspected, and we expect delivery to North Kingstown right around the end of November. The compressor for the machines has arrived, and that's scheduled for installation. So we're lining everything up with the electricians so that we can make sure that when the machines are delivered to us, they are installed right away. As far as supplies, tooling for the CNC milling machine has been purchased, and it's in process of being ordered for the manual machines, as well as setting up parts for inspection. For certification, our senior cohort is currently completing their required certs. All students have completed OSHA 10 certification, and most have completed the first of the 3 required NIMS certifications. And then for future equipment, we are looking to purchase 2 more CNC lathes to complete the project. We have a Champlain Foundation grant application being put in, and if that's successful, that'll allow us to purchase one of the 2, and we'll find out the status of this proposal around the end of November. And we're also exploring additional funding opportunities for the second machines. We are planning a kind of a ribbon cutting open house for this program later in the spring. We want to make sure all the machines are in, give time for the students to be able to use them, so when we do a ribbon cutting open house, the students can actually show our community what they're doing, maybe make a few items that can be like given away as little tokens. So making great progress with that. Update on the playground for the Early Learning Center. All the playground equipment was delivered this past week. They were going to start installation on Monday, but unfortunately with the weather, with all the rain, and we're getting some more stormy weather later in the week, they've pushed that off to Monday. So the plan is to they'll be in Monday, install the playground, and then soon after that, once it's inspected, it'll be open for all of our students. The high school has their CTE open house tomorrow night. It's from 6 to 8. And we had Bus Safety Week. That was October 20th, 21st, around that time period. Michelle worked with our schools on doing the emergency training with the students, how to exit out of the back of a bus. She also put together a great safety video that was shared with everyone, and there were safety awareness bracelets that were handed out to our students. And there's also the bus poster contest that we've shared out. So a lot of great things happening in the district, and just want to thank our staff and community for all of that.
Thank you, Dr. Duba. Any questions on the superintendent report? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to routine items. Can I get a motion to seal the executive minutes, and we'll disclose that there were no votes taken in executive today?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Before we make a motion to approve the consent agenda, does anyone want to exempt anything?
D1.
Anything else? Okay, hearing none, can I get a motion for the remaining consent agenda items minus D1?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, can I get a motion for D1?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I just want to confirm, Dr. Duva, that even though the agreement had expired in June, that we still are covered and that they are still honoring the pricing.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion to approve. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to special reports. The first item is office hours for September 29th. Ms. Lima, do you want to do that, or do you want me to?
I have it if you want to do it.
Yeah, go ahead,
Okay.
and then I can add if there's
Yep.
anything.
Mine is pretty short. So we had September office hours on Monday, the 29th at the Central Admin Office at 5 p.m. We had the discussion advertising for an after-school care. If people wanted to come and talk about that subject. We had 2 attendees from Hamilton Elementary School. They were parents and potential care providers, and we discussed the needs and the current options in the town and the district. Anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I just had noted kind of some themes from the conversation were not having a lot of options at the actual schools, that a lot of the children in the district have to rely on like external before and after school care for some of our schools. Challenges with later start schools, with daycares not opening at certain times, et cetera. And then also kind of a need and want for, some public-private partnerships, and also perhaps some opportunities to connect with both the rec department or the library to kind of work through some different options. And then also an opportunity to perhaps better communicate like what is available for families in town. So if folks are moving here, et cetera, like even though we don't have a lot within the district, like what daycares provide before and after school care, who could they contact, et cetera, and trying to provide our families with more information. So those were just some of the notes that I had in addition to what Ms. Lima shared.
And then we held October office hours on Wednesday, the 29th at the Central Admin Office at 5 p.m. We advertised a topic as students' physical and emotional safety and well-being, and we had 0 attendees at that one.
Okay. Any questions regarding the special reports? Okay, hearing none, we can move on to the financial reports. Can I get a motion? I don't need a motion for a report. Dr. Duba, do you want to be anything on that one that you'd like to discuss?
This is the update on the statewide fiscal impact. Yes, Leslie and Michelle prepared a presentation to go over that with all of you.
Michelle Hume, Transportation Supervisor.
Leslie Bell, Director of Finance. And I just want to start out by saying, Michelle and I put this presentation together more just to be transparent and open because what we're doing with the statewide PCCT is something new. So as I'm monitoring it each month, if we're making any adjustments or any changes, I want to make sure that the school committee is aware, the public is aware of what we're doing. So I know in the agenda it said fiscal impact, but there isn't actually any different, there's no fiscal impact or any like new monies or being like that. It's just a reallocation of budgets. So I just want to make that clear.
Let's see. We just wanted to explain of the reallocated funds as we began the 25-26 school year. We started the school year, 3 minibus drivers and 2 bus aides short in the transportation department. This created an immediate staffing shortage on the minibus side of transportation. Because of this shortage, we were not able to eliminate 2 large buses to offset the cost increases this year to statewide transportation. Those 2 large buses were essential to ensure that all students, particularly displaced students, were safely transported to and from school and additional home-to-school routes.
So the reason why we started looking at this is because when we were presenting about moving the PCCT students, I can never say that, to statewide, we had, by changing the routes and taking those routes away from the bus contractors, our anticipation was that we could take the dollars that we had budgeted for those 2 large buses to pay for statewide for that first year. And because we ended up having to now use those buses, we wanted to just show what we were doing with the budget to make those accommodations so that we didn't have any fiscal impact at all. And then one thing that we did want to let everyone know is we talked about it. I know when Dr. Clark gave her presentation about the summer programming, we talked about how there's a lot more ridership with and there's a lot more need for busing. Mm-hmm. So we did have an amount that went over budget for the summer programming, and we wanted to show how we were going to make how we were going to compensate for that as well.
We can probably go to the next one because that will really show the offset, the financial. Yeah, the next one.
Nope, go back one more. Okay, so really what I just wanted to demonstrate here for everybody was that when we had talked about moving to statewide for those out-of-district students or those parochial school students, there was $157,500 that was budgeted for those 2 large buses. We were, in order to account for the cost for statewide, we would not be using those buses, and then that would cover the cost for statewide this year. Since those buses are now still being used, and they're already in the budget, there's no change to that area, but we still needed to then compensate. We needed to find that $127,000, and then as well as the $19,000 for the summer school. So the total kind of reallocation that we needed, essentially just a big giant budget transfer, was $147,389.67. So to achieve this, if you go to the next slide, what Michelle had mentioned in the beginning was we had a really hard time staffing 3 of the minibuses and 2 bus aides, which was the reason why we needed to put those 2 large buses back into rotation. Yeah. So we watched it in September, still couldn't fill the positions, watched it through October, still not, Right. So we made the decision, we met and we said, okay, we're gonna have to keep these 2 buses going, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna hold off on trying to fill the driver positions, the aide positions, because ultimately those 2 buses right now are doing the work of those 3 minibuses and those 2 aides. So if you look at the salary and benefits for those positions, that budgeted amount comes out to be $159,792, which is slightly over the offset that we needed for statewide and the summer budgeting. So I'm going to reallocate from the salary line to the bus contractor line, and it should make everything even. We still have one other driver position that has not been able to be filled. My recommendation is that we don't fill it because right now there isn't a need. But we don't want to lose the position. But because the statewide parochial school is so new and we're monitoring it, we're anticipating it being at 127, but in the chance that we have increased ridership and that goes up, by keeping that 46,000 available, we have wiggle room. So that would be my recommendation. And that's what I'm planning to do, is to make that move, unless there's any large objections to it.
Because we've not received any statewide invoices as of today. We're still waiting. So we haven't received anything from September or October.
I'm trying to be very proactive.
Yep.
And then next one. And then Michelle, this is for next year. I'll let you take this one.
Which one is this one? Oh, the summary and the considerations. I can't read on my side here. Oh, I don't have the new one. That one. For the fiscal year 26-27 budget, the 3 minibus drivers and the 2 bus aides will need to be back included into our budget. That way we would be able to, one of my goals this year would have been, we were able to fill those positions adequately with eliminating the 2 big buses. We're taking more students off of statewide possibly, and even the ESSA students in McKinney-Vento. So next year I'm hoping that unfortunately we're still going to have the displaced students. Correct. Our numbers really increased at the end of August and the beginning of September, and it's still growing. We still have students coming in every day. So those 2 large buses will definitely be needed, but we're also going to need the 3 minibus drivers and the 2 bus aides. If we can even fill the positions, there are no guarantees we'll even fill those positions next year with bus drivers. However, I'd really, like to take the students that we transport to the specialty schools and bring them in. We don't have a high number this year. We really took it down. And ESSA and McKinney-Vento, we're not really able to help transport those students that are coming into North Kingstown or vice versa. I'd really like to be able to assist with some of that also, because that's a large increase on our statewide invoice that right now we're kind of like at a holding pattern, and we don't even know what we're looking at yet for this year. So that's would be the justification to have the 3 bus drivers and the 2 aides. And again, I'm not even sure that those are positions we can fill. We just want to make sure that we at least keep them in the budget. That way when we can fill them, that we have them there. The costs associated with statewide will be offset next year based on the amount of students, and next year we'll start receiving the credit for this year's students.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the committee?
My only question was, so heading into this year, right, we expected that we were going to have 2 less large buses, right? But it sounds like we're planning on having them next year now. The 2 that we weren't going to have this year, we're now saying we're going to need for next year.
More than likely, number one, if we don't fill any of those positions, the 3 bus drivers and the 2 minibuses, absolutely. But with the amount of displaced students, the numbers increased. We're at like 35 elementary displaced students right now, which is a big increase. And we would not be able to do that with just the minibuses.
So the 2 buses we thought we were going to get rid of, you're saying we're not going to get rid of?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see that happening.
Okay.
So in essence, what that slide is kind of demonstrating is that if we're looking at our budget, kind of exclusive of contractual increases, any of that, we wouldn't be changing from fiscal 26 to 27 in terms of right now in our budget we have 21 buses. Next year we would have 21 buses. We would have the same number of FTEs. The $127,000 is what kind of goes away. So we don't necessarily have to worry.
Statewide.
Yeah, statewide.
Yeah.
That. So we don't have to worry about that. So our budget should look very similar to what it is for this year, as opposed to having a savings of, or having to be $157,000.
Because this year we had the minibus, the aides, and the buses, and next year we're going to have the same thing anyways.
All right. Any other questions regarding the update on the statewide fiscal impact and the trickle effects of said thing? No. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Okay, we're moving on to advisory subcommittee report. Excuse me. First up is the DEI advisory committee.
The DEI Advisory Committee last met on October 22nd. We spent most of the meeting discussing potential goals for the year in relation to the goals that Dr. Duba had proposed to the school committee to ensure that there wasn't anything that we wanted to recommend be added, changed, etc. We'll continue to discuss as a group at our next meeting and then bring them to the school committee for approval. Rob Mezzanotte gave an update on the Equity, Belonging, and Engagement Coordinator position and advised that the work on the Equity Vision Statement rollout will resume once that position is filled. We also discussed the results of the student survey and the balance of our meeting dates for the year. Our next meeting is scheduled for November 19th at 5:30.
Any questions regarding the DEI advisory committee report? Okay, moving on to policy advisory.
The Policy Advisory Committee last met on October 27th. We went through several internet-related policies: responsible use of tech, SIPA internet use, logon usage, written information security program, and internet filtering. And after discussions, asked the IT supervisor to go back and see if some of them could be combined. There were also some additions and revisions that were suggested. We also discussed a revised draft of the proposed new policy on cultural respect and inclusive engagement. We heard feedback from a teacher who came to speak at citizen comments as well. Based on the conversations, Dr. Duba is going to make some additional changes and review with his administrators and bring it back to this policy group at our next meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, November 24th at 5 p.m.
Okay, any questions regarding that? Okay, moving on to budget and finance.
The Budget and Finance Advisory Committee met on Monday, November 3rd. We approved Leslie Ann Powell as the new co-chair of the committee. Dr. Duba will still be a member, however, is stepping down as co-chair of the committee. We reviewed the quarterly reports. We also had discussion on capital improvement line to maintain and grow the CTE programs at the high school. And Leslie Ann is going to look into the best way to do this and we'll continue to discuss that at future meetings. And we also had a discussion on the high school's turf and track complex. Dr. Duber is working with peer engineers to get an estimate of the cost. We currently have a little over $1 million in the fund, and once we have the estimate, a plan will be created to make sure we have the additional funds needed for replacement in 2030. And our next meeting is Monday, December 1st at 4:30.
Thank you. Any questions for the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to unfinished business. Can I get a motion for the first item?
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay. Hearing no discussion, we'll call the question. All those in favor of releasing the title for bus S26, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Can I make a motion to table item B?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then can I get a motion for C?
Make a motion to discuss.
Second.
Okay, so item C is the superintendent goals, the 24-25 update. Dr. Duva, do you want to walk us through that?
Yeah, I can. Do we want? I mean, there's slides. Do you want it up on the screen or no? What would you prefer? I know some things like.
I think it would be helpful just because it didn't get attached. I don't think it was attached for the public to review. Is that correct?
It should be.
Or not until today?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe if we could,
Had a lot
yeah.
to put in here, so it didn't go.
Yeah, so I think that's good to put it up, and then we definitely don't need to go through every slide, but if there's certain things you want to point out, that would be great.
Yeah. Andrew, do you mind clicking it through?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So goal one was looking at academic achievement. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but that was looking at improvement across our state assessments, which is the RICAS for math and ELA, SATs for math and ELA, PSATs, math and ELA, NGSA, which is the next generation science assessment. That's given in grades 5, 8, and 11. When you click on the next slide, that link right there, I don't know if Andrew's able to open it. It's okay if he can't. You have that. That is the assessment data that I kind of put together of everything. Anything highlighted in yellow shows where we've increased based on what we were trying to increase by. ELA, you can see we did do well this past year for ELA, RICAS ELA, the SATs for ELA kind of went down a little. PSATs pretty much stayed where they were at. Math, as we know from the last presentation from last week, we did drop a little in math for RICAS. SATs, math kind of over the past 2 years stayed where they were, and then PSATs for math we did have an increase from 47.2% to 50% showing proficiency.
Dr. This is super helpful. Just a quick clarification. So for ELA under RICAS, it says 56.1%. Am I reading this right? That the goal was to get it to 62%?
So by next year, right? So this.
Oh, so this is the overarching goal.
Yeah,
now
so,
what we were hoping to achieve
so
this
2020,
year.
right? So what we were hoping to do is increase by 2 to 3% each year.
Okay.
So we were hoping that each year
Got
we
it,
would have
got
a
it.
2
Thank
to
you.
3%
Yep.
increase. So in ELA, we actually went up by 5%.
Yep.
But
Got it. Thank you for the
from
clarification.
the baseline of 23 to 24, we went down. So now, if we're going to make
You
that
have to
jump,
achieve more.
it's
Understood.
about 8 points we're going to jump up.
Thank you.
So we're making progress, but we're not where we, back in 23, tried to say make a 2 to 3% increase each year across the board in all of those state assessments.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. For science, the goal was the same thing, to make a 2 to 3% increase each year for science. In grade 5, we went from 52% to 53 to 54, so there was only 1% each year. For 8th grade, we went from 49% to 57, so that was a big increase, but then we went down to 50% for this current year. In 11th grade, pretty much kind of stayed where we were, went down a little bit for science. Now we get into the subgroups. So the next chart is looking at students with disabilities. There's a higher increase there because we want to close the gap. So if we're saying we want a higher increase in order to close those gaps. If you look at RICAS for ELA, we actually did really well. We went from a baseline of 8.6 to 13.6. So that was a really good improvement for that group. For SATs, we went from 23.1 down to 17.9 over the past 2 years. And then PSATs also, unfortunately, went down from 25 to 16. In math, you can see similar, looking at that, we only went up by 1%. SATs, we actually had we went down, but then there was no increase from last year to this year. And in PSATs, we did well. We went up. We went from we had 0% proficiency in 23, went to 2.5% in 24, and then 10% in 25. Still, these numbers are low. These are areas that we need to continue looking at, like what other evidence-based instruction we can provide to those students. For MLLs, which is our multilingual learners, we actually did really well in ELA with our students. I think that's really important to point out because English is their second language. But if you look at changes, there was a drop from 23 to 24, but then we went up. So, different cohorts of students, but there was an increase from last year to this year. Same with SATs, there was an increase. And then PSATs, something was to look at, we went from 0 to 40 to 0. That just number that really sticks out. That's a big number difference. And to look at that, it's a different cohort of students, so we're not looking at the same students because of the grade. Yeah, it's only given at the 10th grade level. So that is something for us to look at there. And then the next subgroup is by race. So you can see there is a lot of yellow on here of showing where we've made those improvements along the way. So RICAS for ELA made some really good increases with our black students. We went from 13.5% to 18% to 27.3% proficiency. Kind of stayed around the same for our American Indian students. Stayed around about the same for our Asians. And then for our Hispanic students, we were at 36, we went down to 26, and that 34 should have been highlighted yellow. That was an increase, that was a good increase right there. And then for math for RICAS, again, some good increases for our black students, our American Indian students, and as well as our Hispanic students. For SATs, that's given junior year. So we have baseline for ELA for black students was 20. It went up to 37, and then the current cohort was at 0. So again, it's something for us to really look at to look at that area. American Indian was at 50% for this year. Another highlight was in the Hispanic population, going from 40% to 61%. In math, again, 2 areas for us to look at. For our black student population and American Indian population, there wasn't any movement there. And then for our Asian student population, going from 57% to 62%, and our Hispanic population going from 18 to 36%. For PSATs, similar growths here. Looking at our Asian student population, we went from 87% up to the current cohort of 100% being proficient. Our Hispanic population going from 53% to 60%. And then for math, looking at our Asian student population, baseline of 33% up to 83%, and then our Hispanic population 21% to 28%. So some good movements in certain demographic areas there. Next, goal 2 was for the vision of the learner. And for that goal, that was for us to get through
And Ken,
this.
just in the interest of the time, if we met it, like, we could just be like, goal 2,
Okay,
we
that's
met,
fine.
and
I
then
didn't know if
we,
we
yeah,
wanted to,
no,
like, report out
I
for-
so appreciate that, but I
Yep,
think,
nope, so goal 2 we met.
if there's ones that you want to
Goal-
specifically point out, maybe,
No,
but.
goal 3 we met. On our chronic absenteeism, our baseline was at 14.8% for the district, and we're down to 8%. I think that's really a big highlight point, something for us to highlight. Goal 4 That was looking at under teaching and learning and providing professional development, evidence-based instructional strategies. This was also looking at providing staff with different types of PD and choice. We did have a PD session last year around cultural responsive practices. That link shows you the different choices that were provided for our staff. Goal 4B was looking at evidence-based instruction and training for our special education teachers for our students with disability population. That's just listing all the trainings that we said we were going to do, which we did. That was in Wilson Reading, Just Words, Corrective Reading Systems, Number Worlds, Alex, Encore, Edmentum, and Shared Writing Instructional Model. All of that was met. Goal 4C was looking at policies and how we make our policies more equitable. And we had said we do edit or create 5, looking at all the policies that we did this past year. We actually had 7, some around student transportation, grading policy, attendance, student dress. Goal 4C was about mentorship programs, so I just listed all the different programs that we have in the schools and what we're doing for mentoring and having our old students working with our younger students. Some of it are Best Buddy programs that we have at the elementary level, as well as our high school level, student ambassador programs that we have, Leadership Academy. Goal 4C, I put here that it's something we need to continue working on for the upcoming year, and that was providing more workshops and professional development for our students, staff, community, around workshops on empathy, conflict resolution, implicit bias, something we need to continue working on. Goal 5 was looking at maximizing the support and capacity of our staff, parents, students, community around school climate, school belonging, professional learning. We saw the presentation from Mr. Mezzanotte that we definitely met those areas there, and but still want to continue working on this as we move forward. Professional learning workshops. Just noted like what we do around our professional development days and the continued work we'll do with our PD committee. Goal 5 was on communication. There's a link there to our communication plan for the district, just kind of general overview of how we're communicating to our stakeholders, what we use for communication, how communication is provided, and then all of the rest. That next one's on school safety, crisis prevention, emergency training. So it's there of the drills that we've done, the work that we're doing with police and fire, trainings that we've offered as well. And then goal 6 was looking at finance and facilities, the school budget. I put that we're still in progress of creating a facility maintenance plan. Hopefully once we have some consistency of facilities department, we can have that done, updating on capital improvements. And then the redistricting, I provided the information there, and that's work that we're continuing to do on redistricting, school start times, and transportation.
Great.
Any questions?
I think you can.
Any of that?
Questions for the superintendent regarding the
And all those links are there so you can access the data, look at
That's
the,
great.
the evidence and all for that. from this
any
last
questions
year.
regarding that?
No.
Just one thing to note, Ken, I don't know, on the 4C slide about the policies, I don't know if you want to, we worked on the grading policies, but I don't know if we ever moved, I don't know if they got officially updated.
Approved, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Those were still in progress.
Yeah, so maybe just a note on that was the only thing that I noticed.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions regarding that? Okay, thank you. I think that's great in helping us with the next item on the agenda. So moving on to D, can I get a motion for D?
Make a motion to discuss.
Second.
Okay. Okay, so we have the 25-26 goals for the committee to review. Questions regarding that or any information that Dr. Duba wants to provide?
So I have I guess a concern about the first one, which is continuing to try to reach the original goals for the broadcast and everything scores, because if you look at where we're at today versus where you're at for the 2023 baseline, to achieve the goal of the original goal set in 2023, there's some huge, it's well beyond 2 to 3% per year. I'm concerned that's an extremely aggressive goal for you to try to reach this year. Do you
So-
that that's,
I think it would be a lot for us to make that possible. It was back when so these goals are based on the strategic plan we wrote. So we write our strategic plan every 3 years.
Yep.
So we'll be updating that plan at the end of this year for the next
Yep.
3. So I did refer back to that. I mean, I don't think we're going to be able to meet that based on where we are this year in all of those areas. So it's
So-
not something that we can, but it was the goal back from 23 when we wrote the
I
3-year
understand
plan.
it, but you're gonna be
So
evaluated on
Mhm.
the goal that you are setting now. So you're basically setting an unobtainable goal.
Is there a way we could do something?
We can adjust, I mean, we can definitely adjust that, I just wanna go off of what we had put in the strategic plan, but, I mean, it's definitely,
And I think that
Some
made
of those
sense
goals-
3 years ago.
right, but looking at it now, it's not something, I mean, that would be a huge expectation that we're gonna continue to meet that, so.
Right, so I think that's worth,
Mhm. And that's something, as long, we're all good with that,
Yeah,
we're happy
I
to
think-
adjust that to what
I
could
think-
be possible for this year based on where we're at.
And we could put it in, for lack of a better word, like reality, right? Like
Mhm.
to hit the strategic plan goal, it would be like ideally we would have an increase between 6 to 8%. But then, like more realistically, it's 2 to 3%.
Right.
Like so, I think you can acknowledge that maybe somewhere, like in the objective or somewhere.
Right,
But I
just
also
based
think
on our current
setting
data,
realistic
where we
goals.
are, of what we can do for
Yep.
this year, it's more like a 2% increase.
yeah,
that
I mean,
we
there can be a
look at,
stretch
so,
goal and
yeah.
then like a target
Mhm.
goal
Yeah,
or
realistic
something.
goal
I
or
just,
something. I hear what you're saying, Ken, though, about how, like, we have, as we're finishing the strategic plan, like, that's where we would be, but just based on the past data, like, that's just not. So I think maybe just considering
Yeah, no, I'd
adjusting
be
that.
happy
Other
to
thoughts from the
adjust
committee on that?
No, and that was this percentage over the time frame, right?
Right, it
Not
was over
each
the
year.
3 years, right, so we were looking at like at least a 2% increase each year.
Okay.
Yeah, we needed
But we
2%,
went
2 to
down in
3%
certain
each year,
areas.
Each year. Okay.
but if we didn't hit that one year, then, like, we're at the point now, because we're in the last year, that we have to make up that difference, basically, and
Which is a
what,
lot.
what Jen's saying is that that's just not realistic, and we want to make sure we're being realistic. Okay, so that's a no. Other questions or comments regarding the goals?
Yeah, for goal number 2, when discussing chronic absenteeism, prior to the meeting tonight, we got what I consider to be a good suggestion from a resident regarding the RIDE chronic absenteeism dashboard. And since obviously discipline outcomes are tied directly to chronic absenteeism, and since we're obviously trying to reduce the absenteeism rate, I think it is a good suggestion to put in a link every month to the dashboard, the RIDE dashboard on
Put a link in
absenteeism,
here.
or update our agenda, or let us or post our numbers to the agenda, just so that we can see what direction we're moving in, and if there's any consistent pattern, if we're missing anything.
Well, based on what I reported tonight, we're moving in the right direction, because we're at 8% right now,
That's great.
so.
Other questions or comments regarding this goal?
this goal or just in general?
I mean, in general.
So for goal 3, you mentioned a 9% increase in SEL favorability results on SurveyWorks by 2026. What is the baseline for that?
Yeah, I forget, that would go back from the 23 survey works.
It's on, I think Rob
But
has
if
the
we-
baselines.
Yeah,
For
that
the
was from last
presentations,
year
right?
though, so I think
But
we
yeah,
went.
there's no, if you could tie that to an
Yeah, I'll put
actual
that in there.
number.
Yeah.
So that was for goal 3. What part, Jen?
Indicators of success, 9% increase in SEL favorability results. It also
Yeah, I'll
doesn't
put that in
tie
there.
to a specific
Mhm. Yep.
category, so a category and a
Mhm.
number, please.
Other questions or thoughts?
Kenny, back to goal 2, indicators of success, the first bullet point, revise 2 to 3 policies to create more inclusive practices. Do you have any policies in mind?
I don't have any yet. I just know last year we did 5, so I figured we could do 2 to 3 this year. We are working on the student conduct, so that is one of them that I did put in there.
Okay.
Student conduct, and so then I can actually look in there and list another 1 or 2.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if you just kind of were like, oh, we'll just revise some policies, or if you had something in mind. Okay.
Other questions? So, from what I'm hearing, there's kind of two options. We could either vote to approve the goals with the adjustment in percentages to goal 1, and then with the caveat that we'll get the category and numbers put on goal 3, or we can wait until Dr. Duber brings us a next draft and perhaps clarification on the policies. Or we can wait until next meeting for another draft. So it's up to the committee on kind of how we want to move forward.
My preference would be should we actually have the revised one, only because last year's never got revised. So I would prefer to hold off until we actually see the revision.
Yeah, I agree. So it's
All right, so we'll see the revision at the next meeting and hopefully be able to approve it. Okay, thank you so much. And again, thank you for the data. I think that really helps put context to this one. So I appreciate the time that you spent on that. Okay, moving on to new business. Can I get a motion for item A?
I will make a motion to deny the appeal and uphold the administration's recommendation regarding transportation.
Okay,
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item B. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Is the new member in addition or instead?
And instead, because, yeah, so we probably should have put the person that resigned on there.
So,
Well, should we do that and then
Yeah, so the current principal on the committee is stepping down.
okay. So, yeah, so in the future, just for the memo, if we could just get, maybe that would be helpful. Okay, any other questions?
No.
Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to C.
I'll make a motion to accept the administration's recommendations in regard to the FTE adjustment.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to D.
I will make a motion to engage Jeff Soa in regards to, oh no, that's the wrong one, sorry, I was looking at E, okay. Never mind, make a motion to discuss.
Second.
Okay, Dr. Duber, you want to give context to this? Is that NEA contract one?
No, thank you. So we are up for negotiations with NENK for their contract. We need to start that. So what we are looking for are 2 members of the school committee to sit on that negotiations team. I don't have dates yet. I've been communicating with Amanda and with Ryan, just kind of like what we're looking for, but I thought it'd be good to know who from here is sitting on it, because that will also determine kind of timing-wise of what our timeline looks like for dates and times during the day. So if anyone interested in that?
I'm interested.
I'm interested too.
Other interest?
Erin, do you want to do it again?
Yeah, I would be interested too. So, because I think having context from last year
I agree.
helped. So, anyone else?
Which one of you two is?
Well, I think the 2 of us would be good because we're both independents. And I feel like since the teacher unions typically supports
Especially
the
in an election
Democratic
year.
Party, during an election year, I think that's a conflict of interest if Aaron's running again.
I just think having somebody with, like, who sat on them before.
I don't think that's needed. I was on the bus negotiations, and I think I actually added a lot of extra stuff that wasn't added in the past.
Yeah, I agree.
We can just take.
Yeah,
Motion.
I mean, I was trying to make a motion for, like, who was more.
So I'm going to make a motion for myself and Megan Riley.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Any other motions?
I'll make a motion to appoint Aaron.
Second? Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that one carries. We need one more.
I'm happy to make a motion to nominate one of you.
I'd really like to do this one. I haven't been in a negotiation, but
So would I. Because I just feel like I have the business background. I also have the time.
I have the time and I have the education background, so I think we're even.
Yeah, I think not having an education might actually be a positive. Because
But I'm not an educator in a public school district here. And I'm also not running for any offers in the next.
neither am I.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying.
Just pick one then if you want to make a motion, and then if we get a second, we can vote.
I'll make a motion.
If or anyone can, honestly.
I will nominate Megan.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Oh, all right, and then, so, was that 4 or 1? Okay, Ken, you have your 2.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to E.
I will make a motion to engage Jeff Soa to act as counsel in the matter of Warwick Schools versus Barrington Ride litigation.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, F.
I will make a motion to engage Jeff Soa in the matter of the employee hearing.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, G.
I
Motion
will
table.
make a motion to table.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, H. Motion to discuss.
Oh, yeah, I'll make a motion to discuss.
Second.
Okay, so this one, we have a joint meeting on this evening with the town council. And then the next week, we have the next day, we have a school committee meeting. But we need, because the town council canceled their last meeting in December, we need to get approval, we need to approve something that we then need them to approve for the building project. And so my recommendation is that we hold a special meeting prior to the joint meeting and do it, we've done this before, we've done it at the town council hall, right before their meeting, where the school committee could approve it and it would already be on their agenda for later that night, because they actually do a real meeting after our joint meeting is over. So this would allow us to not have to meet a third time. Like, the other option is that we'd have to meet the week prior in a special meeting, so I'm trying to consider our time in what we need to do.
So we
Is
would
that-
do the early one, that one item there, and then still have our meeting on the
Yeah.
16th.
Yes, so we would have a special meeting at, say, 6:30 with one agenda item that would also already be on the town council's agenda later that evening. We would approve it. If it's approved, then the town council would have the opportunity to approve it that evening, and then we would still have our regular meeting on the 16th. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
I was just trying to figure out a way that we're still able to achieve the business that the administration needs to get done without having that second town council meeting. Because it would have worked if they had had that meeting, but they did not. Does that make sense, Ken? Did I accurately?
Yes, nope, it does make sense.
So-
That's pretty much what we need in order to meet those timelines for the building committee.
Do you think 30 minutes is, it's
More than enough.
fine? So we would just need a motion to, we would post it separate than the joint meeting, because it doesn't.
Right.
we-
All right, we'd have to
so-
have our own meeting.
Oh,
We'd have two-
We still have, because I was going to say, I have a joint meeting in my thing, so it's
Yeah,
both.
so we would post the special
Yeah.
meeting, which is just a school committee.
Yeah.
We would have that one agenda item on the special meeting
And then
agenda.
would have our
We would
joint-
then also post
Our joint meeting.
our agenda
Yeah.
for the joint meeting with the town council.
Gotcha.
And is it easy to have it there to
Yeah.
We can check.
Okay,
yeah,
just
we
to
can
make
do
sure,
that.
like,
Yeah.
you don't think
Let's
that's like.
do it, yeah.
We'll find out, so we'll
Yeah.
make sure that we can have that special meeting at the town hall on that Monday.
I mean, worst case, we could probably have it downstairs in that meeting, the conference room downstairs.
True.
It needs to be public though.
That's what I was
Could be
thinking.
public.
So is it easier if we came here at 6? Or can we change
Let's-
the time if we pick the date or no?
Now, I think we'll be okay.
We actually don't
I'll
need to
have-
vote on it, like, we can
Oh,
do an
okay.
email vote, I just
We'll
wanted
check
to,
the
it
location.
didn't make, I was trying to figure out how to communicate it via email, and I was like, you know what, we'll just put it on for tonight so I can explain why we're doing this wacky
Thing.
3-meeting thing in 2 days, so we don't have to actually vote on it tonight, we can do that via email once we have a date and time.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, perfect.
Any feedback on that?
Nope.
Okay, so Ken, next step on that is you all will check with,
Yeah, so
Yep.
we'll need Stephanie just to follow up
That we
on
can
the
do a
location,
special meeting
and then
at the
she'll need
location.
to send an email out to all of you
Yep.
to vote on it.
perfect. Okay, moving on to I, can I get a motion?
Motion to discuss.
Second.
Okay, so this is connected to the joint meeting with the town council, and so just to put it on, we had this last year, and so depending on how the committee wants to move forward, like if there's any specific things that we want to discuss with the state legislators and the town council, like this is our opportunity to do so. So I wanted to kind of get ahead of that now, bringing it up so people could think about it. We could put it on our next agenda to talk about it as a committee. Obviously, individuals can bring it forward, but if the committee has anything that we want to bring forward as a committee that we would like our state legislators to look at and or the town council, like we could also do that as well. So I just wanted to put that on so that we would have it, to get it, people thinking about it so that we could have the discussion at the next meeting. Any questions on that? Okay, so we'll move that to, okay, can I get an item for J?
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then K?
Make a motion to table.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and correspondence, please?
October 23rd, Kent Dresser, formal notice, child endangerment concern, immediate action required, and that is it.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.